So the reason we have multiple color backgrounds is because we're identifying multiple things. And so you're going to notice one that stands out the most is this hot pink. Okay, this hot pink color is volume detection, and you see the moves are much bigger when you see pink bars in the background. Okay, that is volume detection. So these are your best possible places to be in a trade or take a trade that are going to move greater. Green is always going to be uptrend, and the lighter the green, the lighter the trend up, right? So that's why you see a dark green here, light green here. Well, that light green had a little bit of a bear flag printing on a fading up trend, so it lightened up the trend to make it a little bit of a lighter green. But green is green, so green means up. It means your overall trend is up on multiple time frames. Orange. Orange is definitely a no bueno. Orange and gray bars you do not want to be trading in, because if you look at the candles, they aren't going anywhere. Orange and gray signify chop. Okay? And this is where most traders will blow their account, is trading in this range. So that's why I've made them visually represented here, and I've made this indicator block signals from developing in these ranges. If you get a signal in a chop range, I would highly advise you to ignore it, because they just don't go anywhere. Not anywhere that would be beneficial to your account. Anybody have any questions on the colors? I will get color charts and what they're meant for, and I will get them posted in the Discord over the next day or two, along with directions. But I am recording this, and so I will definitely have Peter put a copy of this video out. I will also put it on my YouTube channel for you guys. So it's going to be available in multiple places for people to access. So we'll talk about a couple features here. First thing you're going to see over to your right is a complete dashboard that you can turn off or on. Okay. The dashboard has to be there for future plans of this, with automation, platform trading connection, so on and so forth, so it can measure all your trades. You do not have to have this on, but it will always show you how many trades it signaled, how many won, what your P&L is based on where the trade signaled and where it hit on the TP 1 through 3. Okay? If it takes a loss, it's going to register the loss here, which will then calculate your average win, your average loss, your risk to reward, your expectancy, and your Sharpe curve. Okay, and it'll tell you what the max win, how many points one trade signaled, the highest winning points, or the max loss. Like how many points before your dynamic trailing stop was hit. Below that, you have your daily max drawdown. Okay, this does not auto-calculate because there's no way to attach it to your account. So you have to go in and manually enter this in the settings, and we're going to go through that next, so that you can just keep track of it on the screen. Your streaks. Your streak will show wins and losses. If it takes 3 consecutive losses, it's going to suppress your signals for at least 5-minute bars. Okay? It is going to go in a cooldown phase where it's going to recalculate. It's going to let 5 bars adjust. It's going to tune all your settings so that it does not continue to fire into losing trades. This has a mild version, as close to real AI as I can get, that will calculate every 5 candles what your ATR is, what your volume is, what your volatility is, and it'll adjust all the settings and filters in real time without you having to do anything. Okay, and this will always adjust and auto calculate to whatever time frame you're on and whatever asset you're on. You do not have to do anything. Okay? So moving on, it's going to tell you what session you're in. And it's going to tell you what the ATR is on the price range on the time frame that you're trading. If you don't know what ATR stands for, it stands for average true range. And then that number behind it is what your average candle is moving pointwise. So it's counting the last 14 candles, adding them up, and then averaging the last 14 candles to give you what the average moving range of the candle is. So if you enter a trade and it moves 7 points and starts stalling out, that's when you tighten up your stop and you lock in as much profit as you can. The higher this number is, the bigger the trade you're going to be able to take. So always pay attention to the ATR. If you enter a trade, you should know you're not going to expect to get any more than what that number says. Below that, it's going to tell you if the signal has fired a buy or a sell. This will say long or short. Okay? If it says active none, that means it has not detected a viable trade. This little blue bar here tracks with your trailing stop loss. When this is not active, it'll continuously print labels, but when it is active, it'll only print one label with this line that tracks where your trailing stop should be moved manually throughout the trade. So this helps new traders stay in a trade longer. Okay? If you've ever been victim of taking a trade and you get into it and it's starting to run nicely and you move your trailing stop up too close and you get stopped out and then it takes off even further, that's what this is designed to do, is to keep you in the trade so that you don't choke yourself out. Okay? Anybody got any questions so far? I'll give you guys a minute to throw something in the chat. We can save the compliments for later. Let's just get some paid traders behind this. You guys wanna thank me and compliment me? Go make that fucking money. That is the best compliment you can give me. The update is lively. LV, you're going to get both the best worlds with this version. We're going to talk about that next. So I'm just kind of letting everybody get some questions if there's any this far. Alright, so now we're going to go into the settings. And we're going to highlight the label up here on the indicator. And we're going to go into the settings. And this is the first thing you're going to see. My suggestion for Asia is you set it the minimum confidence score at a 4. 5, 6, and 7 are going to be your highest paying trades and your most accurate. But during New York, maybe even London, you're probably going to want this set at a 3 or a 4. But the higher you set this, and my rule of thumb is typically put it at a 5 and leave it at a 5. Those are the high 90% win rate trades. 90 plus, 90 to 100% win rate on a 5 or higher. Okay? For every number you take this down, you're going to bring your win rate down because you're lowering the confidence threshold that it takes to trigger a signal. TP1, 2, 3 ATR multipliers you do not need to touch. They will auto-calculate based on the last 14 candles and they will update internally on their own. Same with the stop loss ATR multiplier. You do not need to touch it. It will dynamically track on the chart according to the ATR set here. Okay. Higher time frame for MTF EMA. Usually if I'm trading on the 5-minute, I like this set between the 1 hour and 15-minute chart. If I want more signals with less quality, I will turn it down to the 30-minute or even the 15-minute, and we'll see, right? We're signaling trades that don't hit TP. So this is why I leave it on the 1 hour. It gives you much higher confidence and much higher quality trades. Okay, and if you turn this down to the 15-minute, you're going to get the same result. You're going to see a lot more signals in places they shouldn't be because you're reducing the confidence in the filters that's required to take these signals out of play. So always keep that in mind. The lower you lower these filters, you're going to catch more trades, but you're going to catch some poor trades. I would still leave it on an hour, right? Because if we go back to that setting and I leave this at a 4 and I put this on the 1 hour and we go to the 1 minute, you still get a fair amount of trades. Okay? And now you can see this is taking 2 qualified trades, 100% win rate, gave you 6.25 points with a 3.1 ATR. This is why I do not recommend trading on the 1 minute chart in Asia, because you have a very low ATR. That means if you're willing to scalp for 12 ticks or 3 points, that's what your reward's going to be on average. You want to look for the bigger setups. But mind you, this is all still being left on the 1 hour time frame. Yeah, so this if it was in a trade, right? And it's not in a trade because this signal already went to TP1 and then came back, right? So once it hits TP1, there is no guarantee it's going to hit 2 or 3 or continue down. That's for you to judge and learn with price action. If you're in a nice downtrend like this, yeah, odds are you're going to continue to get paid. Okay? But this is the price you pay when you're on a short time frame chart. You're going to get short profits. This signal fired at 709, TP hit was at 706. Second candle came down and took 05 and 03 out and gave you extra. Okay? But what did it do? It immediately reversed and covered almost all that candle back up. So this is why I don't like trading on the 1 minute chart if you're trying to build wealth. But there are people that are comfortable with it, and more power to you. We've got a pink bar, so there's volume. Shut up! So odds are this is going to have more movement than you would see over here or over here. Best results are always going to be in New York. Doesn't matter if it's open, doesn't matter what time of day. This works best on volume and volatility. So that is when you get your highest percentage of win rates, meaning, you know, the win percentage is always pretty consistently high. It means your ATR is usually 17 to 20 plus points, so you're taking 100 plus point trades, 80 plus point trades. in my opinion, the sweet spot is the 5 minute chart, right? Because you're trading 1 hour patterns, you do it on a 5 minute chart. If you're trading 4 hour patterns, you do that on a 15 minute chart. That is proper time frame alignment. 1 minute chart was meant more for scalping and not so much as to getting you to hold longer trades because it's harder to see the bigger picture. And some might argue with me about that, but that's okay. That's your preference, and it doesn't matter to me. My motto is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like if you're successful on a 1 minute, you don't need to listen to me at all. That's just point blank. But for me, when you get comfortable with trading and you can see things much more clear like me, the 5 minute is your comfort zone. And that's just kind of the way it becomes for most. So if you guys notice here, there's a red indicator with a red dotted line here. Okay. This is for another setting that's showing you higher time frame support and resistance. Okay. So this is going to be 4 hour prior support that is now being tested. I'm going to get back to the 5 minute here, and then we're going to go into the settings. Okay, so if you go highlight your label up here on the indicator, you have the settings tab. You want to make sure everything is checked here. You need to set this at a 4 or a 5. Okay, unless you're really good at reading price action, you can drop it down and you can visually figure out which signals you should ignore. Okay, we went over the ATR. You guys do not need to mess with any of these. You can adjust the higher time frame. You can adjust the higher time frame MTF for the EMAs just to give more solid confluence to your trade and your confidence score. And then now we're going to start talking about what's under that. So we want to make sure enable session filter is on. That's going to reduce the noisy trades that come in electronic trading hours such as Asia. We want to enable the MTF trend filter. That's what's going to put these orange and gray colors on the back of your chart. You can choose to take this dashboard off your chart or leave it on. Okay? It is not a requirement. I suggest you leave the enabled dynamic ATR trailing stop on and checked. Unless you have a regiment with your rules, you can set your trailing stop by the ticks. Okay? 4 ticks is 1 point on NQ. 48 ticks would be a 12-point stop. And you guys are, I think most of them are all set at 12. You do not need to mess with this unless you want to actively manage and reflect. And if many of you heard that, that's a signal that a trade is going to fire in the next candle, and it's going to be a retest sell. So you'll see somewhere in this next candle, there's a high probability that a retest sell signal will pop up. You all have that feature. It's called the predictive signal alert that should alert you at least the candle before that trade fires. And we'll talk about how to set that up. Okay. We want to make sure that you got show hammer reversal labels and alerts set up because we always want to know where a bearish and bullish hammer are printing, because if you see them start stacking, odds are you're going to have a shift in trend. They are also good at marking out reversals. Okay. If you're not familiar with a bearish or bullish reversal candle, you should Google it and read and get comfortable with what they look like, how they act, and what you expect to happen. Um, you can, there's no data feed that I can tie into this on TradingView to actually link news so that I can pause news around. So you have to do it yourself, but what this will do if you're not comfortable trading news, if you enable this, it will suppress the signals until the news is over. I always say if you're afraid of trading news, put this on 2 minutes before the news, take it off 2 minutes after the news, and then you should be good to go. This is what we were talking about earlier, LV. Okay? You have the higher time frame confirmation here. Now you have a big time frame structure filter here. Most of you are going to notice this isn't checked. You need to check it, and it's going to be set for the daily. We want it on the 4-hour. Okay, and you do not need to adjust any of these unless you know what you're doing. If you know what you want your HTF pivot to look back, and if you know what level of points you want your trades blocked close to that level, then you can adjust these. Okay, you definitely want to click on show HTF structure levels, and we're going to go over that. That's one of these red dotted lines right here you see on the chart that's marking out that higher time frame structure level. Okay, and then you're going to want to click enable liquidity cluster and volume filter. Okay, that'll put a yellow bar on the chart. If you activate this filter, you will see a yellow background. I do not recommend trading those until you're familiar with how they react. Okay, and again, also auto calculated. You do not need to mess with any of these settings except for the higher time frame structure. Change it from the daily to the 1-hour. Unless you're trading on a 1-hour chart or bigger, then if you're trading on a bigger time frame, then you would switch this back to the daily. You could do the weekly or even the monthly, but it is always going to mark out your structure, support, and resistance on the chart you're trading. And that's it for this part. Okay, once you have all these settings, and this is where you can adjust your max drawdown. So after every trade, if your max drawdown reduces or increases, you can type it in here so you can see it over here on the chart, so you always have it in front of you if you don't already. Okay, now we're going to talk about the predictive feature here, about that noise you guys just heard, about the probability of a signal firing. And that's up here under alerts. If you go into the alert setting and create an alert, okay, you're going to see NQ, you're going to see condition price, you're going to tap on the condition price, you're going to click on the TRC Quantum Elite indicator, and then you're going to have another drop down appear, and you're going to ignore the bullish hammer and the bearish hammer. You only want to put an alert on the predictive breakout buy, the predictive retest buy, the predictive breakout sell, and the predictive retest sell. These are 4 different alerts. So if you start at the top, okay, and you select, we're going to start with the breakout buy first. You're going to make sure interval says same as chart. The trigger, you're going to switch to once per bar. And the expiration, depending on your level of subscription with TradingView, is either going to default to 1 month, so August 1st, or it's going to give you the option to slide on this little slider here that says open-ended alert. This usually requires a higher subscription level to use, such as Pro, or I know it's higher than the Essential. But it doesn't matter. Still gonna work for you even if you're on a calendar. Just means that on August 1st you'll have to come in and change the date to September 1st. Then you're going to go over here to notifications. You're going to click play sound, and then you are going to change your notification setting to whatever noise or sound you want. But make sure you remember exactly what it means so that when it does fire one, you know what you're looking for. Is it a buy or a sell? Okay. Once you have it selected, you can hit create, and that'll put a alarm for that particular trade on your alerts log. So when it fires, you're gonna see one of these alerts will go off long before you see a signal. It's not a guarantee that you're going to see a signal. It's telling you that almost all the conditions to fire an alert are going to be present. Anybody have any questions so far? If it's showing the trailing stop different, you're going to go into your settings. You're going to come back down. You're going to make sure that enable dynamic ATR trailing stop is checked. There is no cap on alerts that I'm aware of. But you're going to need to set an alert for each one of those conditions. So you're going to set one for predictive retest sell, one for breakout sell, one for retest buy, and one for breakout buy. So you're going to set 4 separate alerts. And then you will get alerted whenever conditions are 95% present to fire a signal long before you see a signal on the chart. Anybody have any questions so far? Nick, it may take a little while for that to plot. One thing everybody should do is once you have all the settings on your chart, come over here and make sure you save your settings. Alex, yes, you can absolutely take a trade off of the signal.